My name is Isabella, and for 20 years I've been the perfect corporate wife, smiling at parties and hosting dinners while my husband built his empire. But today, the mask comes off. The documents I've gathered will not only destroy his business, but expose the cruel truth about our marriage. This isn't just about revenge, it's about reclaiming the life I sacrificed for his ambition. Isabella Martinez appeared to be the ideal corporate wife, beautiful, polished, and always supporting her husband Michael's rise to power in the tech industry. For 2 decades, she played her role perfectly, from charity galas to business dinners, all while hiding the painful reality of their marriage. Michael had built tech dynasty from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire, but his success came at the cost of their relationship. The cracks began showing 5 years into their marriage when Michael started working 100-hour weeks, missing anniversaries, forgetting birthdays, and treating their home like another corporate branch to manage. Isabella's dreams of starting a family were repeatedly postponed for the right timing that never came. She watched as her husband transformed from the passionate entrepreneur she married into a cold, calculating CEO obsessed with legacy. The final betrayal came when Isabella discovered Michael's secret offshore accounts and the mistress he'd been supporting for years. But instead of confronting him, she began her own quiet investigation, using her position as the harmless wife to access documents and records that would eventually bring down his entire empire. She realized the perfect revenge would be using his own methods against him. Isabella's investigation revealed a web of corporate corruption that went far beyond marital betrayal. She discovered Michael's company had been systematically stealing intellectual property from smaller startups, driving them into bankruptcy while claiming their innovations as his own. The documents she secretly copied showed fraudulent patents, manipulated stock prices, and illegal data mining practices that violated every ethical boundary in the tech industry. Using her degree in computer science, a career she'd abandoned to support, Isabella began methodically documenting every illegal activity. She created encrypted digital copies of financial records, saved incriminating emails, and even planted recording devices in Michael's home office. Each piece of evidence was carefully stored in multiple secure locations with backups only she could access. Her breakthrough came when she discovered Project Phoenix, Michael's plan to launch an AI platform that would monopolize the entire tech market by illegally using stolen code from 3 different companies. The project involved bribing government officials, hacking competitors, and manipulating market regulations. Isabella realized this wasn't just about her marriage anymore. It was about preventing a digital monopoly that would destroy innovation and privacy rights. As Michael's launch date approached, Isabella began strategically leaking small pieces of information to his competitors and regulatory bodies. She watched as his company's stock became volatile, his business partners grew nervous, and government investigations quietly began. Michael, consumed by his paranoia about corporate espionage, never suspected the threat was coming from his own home. The tension escalated when Michael announced he was running for political office, planning to use his tech empire to influence policy on a global scale. Isabella knew she had to act before he gained even more power. She reached out to the founders of the companies he destroyed, building a coalition of victims who'd suffered from Michael's ruthless business practices. Meanwhile, Isabella prepared her escape plan. She quietly moved her personal assets to secure accounts, arranged for a new identity, and documented 20 years of emotional abuse and neglect. She knew exposing Michael would mean destroying the luxurious life she'd known, but she was ready to trade comfort for freedom. The final catalyst came when Michael announced he was divorcing her to marry his younger mistress, offering Isabella a settlement that was a fraction of what she was entitled to. Instead of negotiating, she smiled gracefully and signed the papers, knowing her real revenge would be far more devastating than any financial settlement. The night before the Tech Dynasty global launch event, Isabella reviewed her evidence one final time. She had everything she needed: financial crimes, intellectual property theft, political corruption, and personal betrayal. The perfect wife was about to become the perfect whistleblower, and the world would finally see the man behind the billionaire facade. The global launch event for Aura, Michael's revolutionary AI platform, was the most anticipated tech event of the decade. The convention center glittered with celebrities. Politicians and tech elites all gathered to witness what promised to be a historic moment in technological advancement. Michael stood backstage, adjusting his tie in the mirror, his reflection showing the arrogant confidence of a man who believed he had conquered every obstacle. Isabella moved through the crowd with practiced grace, wearing the emerald green gown Michael had chosen for her, playing her role as the perfect corporate wife one final time. She carried a simple clutch purse that contained nothing but a single USB drive, the key that would unlock the prison she had lived in for 20 years. The presentation began with stunning visuals and dramatic music. Michael took the stage to thunderous applause, his charismatic presence commanding the room. "Today marks not just a product launch," he declared, "but the dawn of a new era in human civilization. Aura will revolutionize how we live, work, and connect." As Michael demonstrated Aura's capabilities, Isabella discreetly made her way to the technical control booth. She flashed her all-access pass, the same pass Michael had given her years ago, as a symbolic gesture of trust he never met, and entered the nerve center of the entire event. On stage, Michael was reaching his crescendo. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the first live demonstration of Aura's revolutionary capabilities. That's when the screens behind him flickered. Instead of the planned demonstration, they displayed a single document, the original code for Project Insight, a startup Michael had driven into bankruptcy 5 years earlier. The crowd murmured in confusion. Michael tried to laugh it off. Technical difficulties, it seems. The price of innovation. ... But then the screen stood again, showing bank transfers between Michael's offshore accounts and 3 different government officials. The crowd fell silent as email after email appeared, evidence of bribes, blackmail, and corporate espionage on a massive scale. Back in the control booth, Isabella calmly typed commands into the main computer, her 20 years of suppressed rage channeled into perfect, precise execution. She had prepared for this moment like a master programmer writing her magnum opus. Michael's security team rushed toward the control booth, but Isabella had anticipated this. She'd arranged for journalists from 3 major news networks to be positioned at the entrance, their cameras capturing the attempted suppression live. The world watched as hired guards tried to silence the truth. Then Isabella's voice echoed through the sound system, calm yet powerful. 20 years ago, I fell in love with a visionary. Today, I expose the monster he became. ... What followed was the most devastating corporate takedown in tech history. Isabella systematically revealed the complete theft of intellectual property from 17 different startups, complete with original code comparisons and dated documents proving Michael had stolen their work, financial records showing how Michael had laundered money through shell companies in 3 different countries, evading over $200 million in taxes while pretending to be a model corporate citizen. But the most shocking revelation came when Isabella exposed Project Chimera, Michael's plan to use Aura not just for commercial dominance, but for mass surveillance and manipulation on a global scale. Internal documents showed plans to sell user data to authoritarian regimes, manipulate elections, and create a digital dictatorship where Michael would effectively control the flow of information worldwide. The crowd erupted in chaos. Security tried to shut down the power, but Isabella had prepared for this too. She had backup generators and satellite feeds ensuring the truth would be broadcast no matter what. Michael stared at his wife in horror as she walked onto the stage, still speaking into the microphone she had taken from the control booth. "You taught me that in business and in life, the most dangerous threat is the one you never see coming. You never saw me, Michael. You never saw the quiet wife studying your every move, documenting your every crime. ... Then came Isabella's masterstroke. She revealed that she hadn't just been gathering evidence. She'd been building an alternative. While Michael created Aura for control, she had quietly assembled a team of the very developers he had wronged, creating Aura Libre, a free open-source version that would be released to the public immediately, preventing Michael from ever establishing his monopoly. As federal agents moved through the crowd toward Michael, Isabella delivered her final blow. The greatest irony? Everything you built, every innovation you stole, every empire you created, it was all made possible by the woman you considered your greatest accessory. I was the architect of your success, and tonight I become the architect of your failure." The screens displayed one final document, their original partnership agreement from 20 years earlier, showing that Isabella had actually co-founded Tech Dynasty with Michael, though he had forced her to sign away her rights early in their marriage. The document proved she was entitled to 50% of everything, a fact Michael had concealed for 2 decades. As handcuffs clicked around Michael's wrist, he looked at Isabella with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. "I loved you," he whispered, though only she could hear him. Isabella met his gaze without flinching. "No, Michael. You loved what I could do for you. There's a difference." In that moment, the perfect corporate wife vanished, replaced by a formidable woman who had just dismantled a billion-dollar empire with nothing but her intelligence, patience, and the righteous anger of 20 years of betrayal. The cameras flashed, capturing not the fall of a tech giant, but the rise of the woman he should never have underestimated. In the aftermath of what became known as the Aura Revelation, the tech industry underwent its most significant transformation in decades. Michael Martinez faced 47 federal charges, including racketeering, intellectual property theft, tax evasion, and conspiracy. His political allies resigned in disgrace, and Tech Dynasty's assets were seized and restructured under government supervision. But the true revolution was just beginning. Isabella used her rightful 50% ownership to establish the Ethical Tech Foundation, dedicated to supporting startups victimized by corporate predation and promoting transparency in the technology sector. Aura Libra, the open-source platform she revealed during her expose, became the foundation for a new generation of ethical AI development. Downloaded by millions of developers worldwide within the first month, the personal transformation for Isabella was even more profound. She moved to a modest home in Northern California, far from the glittering world of Silicon Valley elite. For the first time in 20 years, she woke up to silence instead of corporate demands, to her own ambitions instead of someone else's schedule. The freedom was both terrifying and exhilarating. She reconnected with the woman she'd been before Michael, the brilliant computer scientist who loved coding for the joy of creation rather than profit. She started teaching programming classes at local community centers, mentoring young women interested in tech careers. The students never knew their gentle, knowledgeable instructor was the same woman who had brought down one of the world's most powerful tech empires. The financial settlement from the divorce, combined with her share of Tech Dynasty's restructured assets, made Isabella wealthy beyond practical need. But unlike Michael, she found meaning not in accumulating wealth, but in redistributing it. She funded scholarships for women in STEM, supported ethical tech incubators, and established legal defense funds for whistleblowers. Former employees Michael had wronged reached out to thank her. Startups he had crushed sent messages of gratitude. But the most meaningful connection came from Sarah Chun, founder of Project Insight, the first company Michael had destroyed. Sarah and Isabella became close friends and business partners, launching Phoenix Collective, an investment firm that exclusively supported ethical tech startups led by underrepresented founders. As for Michael, his fall was as dramatic as his rise had been. Convicted on all charges, he received a 25-year sentence in a federal prison. The man who had dreamed of controlling global information now lived in a 6-by-8-foot cell with limited internet access. Isabella never visited him, but she occasionally received letters that she read once before burning, not out of anger, but from a place of final detachment. The most surprising development came 2 years after the revelation, when Isabella published her memoir under a pseudonym. She didn't write it as a revenge tell-all, but as a cautionary tale about lost identity and rediscovered purpose. The book became a surprise bestseller, though few knew the author's true identity. On what would have been her 23rd wedding anniversary, Isabella visited the garage where she and Michael had started Tech Dynasty. The space was now a bike repair shop, the dreams of world domination replaced by the simple, honest work of fixing broken chains and flat tires. She stood there for a long time, not mourning what was lost, but appreciating the poetry of how things had turned out. Her final act in the public sphere was establishing the Marital Equity Act, legislation that would prevent what happened to her from happening to other spouses. The law required full financial transparency between married business partners and protected the intellectual property rights of both parties regardless of their official roles. Today, Isabella Martinez is neither a corporate wife nor a famous whistleblower. She's simply Isabella, a woman who gardens, codes for fun, mentors young developers, and has finally found peace. The world may remember her as the wife who destroyed her husband's empire, but she knows the truth. She wasn't destroying anything. She was simply reclaiming what was always her mind, her work, and her right to define her own legacy. The final lines of her memoir read, "They say living well is the best revenge. I've discovered something better. Living authentically is the only revenge that truly matters." And no empire, no matter how vast, is worth the price of your soul.